Coming up on this episode, will Sebastian Vettel return to F1? Will brake issues still affect Max Verstappen this weekend? And what is going on with Williams and Logan Sargeant? All coming up in this episode.
If he continues this way, he's going to be one of the greats.
Today we saw something amazing.
This is Formula One. This is the sport we love.
Welcome, everybody, to F1 Briefings in proud partnership with Sports Illustrated. Let's get straight into the stories. Logan Sargeant, he had a bit of a...
Just an incident.
We're working on that. He had a bit of an incident, didn't he? He went off in FP1, wasn't it? And this just comes after. This comes after all of the rigmarole of Australia. Alex Albon damaging his chassis, having to take Logan Sargeant's car, which we'll talk about in a minute. We also discussed it in the latest and last podcast, so go back and listen to that if you fancy it. But this is the last thing Williams are wanting right now.
I know. It was just typical, wasn't it? I mean, it's almost like, when something, but no one talks about it and everything's fine. But then as soon as people start talking about it, it suddenly becomes a huge issue. Because this was the same situation at the first two races of the year, but no one talked about it and nothing happened and everything was fine. But obviously we know what happened in Australia. They came to Japan and were like, it's great, we've got both cars.
No spare chassis, though.
No spare chassis still, and it's still probably going to be the case in China as well. They're thinking Miami will be when they have the spare chassis.
That's right.
So obviously they had the two cars. Logan Sargeant was going out in the repaired car.
Yes.
Then he went and put it in the wall.
Yeah, so let's first of all talk about this repaired chassis. Mm-hmm. Was it the right thing for Williams to do, kind of a similar question to last time, to put Logan Sargeant in the chassis that has just gone through a structural repair?
So if I'd answered that before free practice, scrap that. I think my answer would be the same, to be fair. Unfortunately, yes. Let's just ignore the fact that we know he crashed. But it's a tough sport and kind of cutthroat. You've got to put the team first, and Alex Albon does have the best chance of bringing points home, and Australia aside, not crashing. Touch wood.
Yeah, I agree.
Just because he's got more experience. And then now we know he crashed. Yes, it definitely was the right decision.
Yeah, so the chassis was repaired. It was shipped back to Grove. And Logan Sargeant was like, oh, it's fine, I'll take the broken chassis. And he was like, it's fine because the engineers, I'm going to save them a bit of time. But it's highly likely that the chassis was stripped going back to Grove, in between these flyaway races anyway. So I think that was a bit of an excuse. He's kind of covering for Williams a little bit because really, when the chassis goes through the repair, it's around 100 grams heavier because of the stitching. There's a slight possibility that it's going to be slightly down on performance. Maybe there's a little less structural rigidity. Maybe. But yeah, they were like, we'll give it to Sargeant because, again, for the same reason, he's not as likely to get us points. And that leaves Alex Albon with brand spanking new chassis. A couple of races in. But, Logan's old chassis that is completely... unscathed. And they'll just see what they can do. And Alex, like you said, has the highest chance of actually bringing home some points for Williams. And I agree. We kind of thought, from people with hearts, we're like, this is kind of harsh on Logan again. It's kind of showing Logan that once again the team thinks he is not trustworthy as a driver. But FP1 came along and he kind of confirmed the reasoning. He went into that fast corner, put the right wheels on the grass. There's that kind of, I'm not sure what it is. There's the entrance to the track, the tarmac, just to the right. And he had the chance to slow the car and bring it back online. But no, he just plowed forward.
It looked bad as well. Obviously, it was unclear. I mean, it's been confirmed now that the chassis itself wasn't damaged, which
Thank
is a
God.
slight miracle. But it still looks really bad, and because it was bouncing loads, I was like, there could be.
Oh, maybe there's a little bit of flexibility, like something's going to crack.
Yeah, but obviously it was. I mean, suspension and gearbox are pretty much.
Yeah, and the upgraded parts they haven't got. I believe it was only front wing end plates, but they haven't got replacements because this is Williams, so he's back on the original parts again. And they lost a load of practice. They lost, really important practice sessions.
The one thing that went in his favour, though, is obviously he was out of FP2 because Williams couldn't get the car fixed in time. But then also there was a load of rain and there was not that much track time going on in FP2. So slight silver lining, would we call it? Like, I don't know. I'm clutching at straws here.
No, you're right. Like the potential of actually gaining information that they could use, data that they could use, probably not quite there. But it's a real shame. I think this is going to affect his confidence. And I mean, I don't think he's got a seat for next season. I can't see Williams going, yep, after everything we've done, he deserves a seat.
I think the difficulty is that nothing happened in the driver market last year. So it's almost like there's a backlog now of all these drivers that are coming up through the ranks and really putting in impressive performances, but then they didn't get anything this year. And then there's all the ones that are also going through that process this year. So there's going to be it's going to be very, very competitive for new drivers and rookie drivers coming in. And then there's all the other drivers that are ending their contracts.
Yeah, 13 of them.
Yeah, so it's going to be tough for him to secure a race seat next year. I think the difficulty as well is that I agree with Williams' decision is savage, but it makes sense. But he kind of had an opportunity personally to be like, okay, this is the situation. It's not great. It doesn't look great on me. They don't have much trust in me, but it's a long season and I can turn this around. Maybe he was putting too much pressure on himself and he's shoved it into the wall. But afterwards he was like, it's a silly mistake and it's a mistake I should not be making.
Yeah, I mean, it's FP1, for goodness sake. Like, it's, that FP1 is the last place you should be pushing like that. Like, it's a mistake that there's no excuse for it.
Yeah.
Like, it was such a bad bit of driving. I was like, damn, I miss Latifi, that kind of thing. At least Latifi goes the wrong way, but he stops and doesn't damage the car.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't look great for Sargeant right now, but it's a long season. It's a very long season. Maybe he can turn it around. Maybe by the end of the season, he can prove to us that he is worth keeping and more importantly, prove to James Vowles that he is worth keeping.
I think last season... I know we'll move on, so this is the last thing I'll say. But
Enjoy
I think last season he let the kind of pressure get the better of himself. Whereas this year he needs to come back and just like grow personally and not let it affect him. Because it was until right at the end of the season that they confirmed him for this year. So it seems to a lot of people that he got through the skin of his teeth. So he needs to really prove himself.
Yeah, he really does. You're right. Let's move on to someone who really doesn't need to prove themselves, and that is Max Verstappen. Really, it's not Max that needs to prove himself. It's a single mechanic that maybe got something wrong. Australia, the first DNF for Max since, Australia in 2022? I'm trying to think. Ooh. I think he had power unit, because they had power unit issues in 2022,
did. At the beginning of 22, they had a few issues.
And so Max, I mean, it was kind of sad, wasn't it? Because Carlos Sainz put in such a great race, and he totally deserved to bring home that first place, especially as it was only, a couple of weeks after his surgery. Ridiculous performance from him. But if we'd had Max on the track, if his car was working at, full potential, we could have had a really interesting race. And I actually think it wasn't that interesting a race at the Australian Grand Prix. I felt like, Carlos had such a lead. We just swapped names. There wasn't really much going on. But we're now at the Japanese Grand Prix. Will Max have similar issues? Because the issue was a brake issue, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, like you say, I think Australia, it was exciting having somebody else and like, you know, a different mix of people on the podium.
Oh, totally.
But this weekend should be a bit more representative of how much Ferrari have closed that gap, if they have. So I think that will be really exciting. But yeah, so we ran into brake issues. They still didn't seem to feel concerned about this week, though. Like, although they were kind of still investigating and it was unclear whether it was actually resolved or not, they were just like, yeah, it'll be fine.
Yeah, like Helmut Marko, like halfway through the week after Australia, was like, we don't know what it is, but it's all good.
Yeah.
Like, it's all good. And then it turned out that it was binding of the caliper to the brake rotor, and that's what produced the heat and what caused the small explosion. It was like someone threw John Wick onto the track. It was actually great to watch, wasn't it?
It was.
People were like, that's just his like Mario Kart defense system, like just in case Carlos was going to get close. Unfortunately, he let it off at the wrong point. But yeah, apparently they've kind of realized what it is, and Red Bull they've actually brought a few upgrades in, which we'll talk about in a second. But Max was pretty nonchalant about it as well. Helmut Marko earlier last week said Max's brakes broke. The exact cause is still being investigated. Obviously, it's now been confirmed that it was the caliper and the rotor, but it's not the brake caliper, he says. Maybe take Helmut Marko's quotes with a pinch of salt. That's what we do. It's more of an assembly issue, but that's still being investigated. Yeah, Brembo was like, it's nothing to do with us, boss. Not a thing. But Japan is a track that's going to really suit Max. It's going to really suit the Red Bulls. Lots of fast corners. It's a fast track. The average speed is high. And we know how efficient those RB20s are. Max also loves it. It's where they won the Constructors' Championship last year. Although it's a little bit earlier in the year, isn't it, I suppose?
It's also where he won his Drivers' Championship in 2022. Yes.
Is it really? I've
Yeah.
forgotten that.
Yeah, because, little side note, do you remember Johnny Herbert after the race was doing the post-race interviews and was like, Max, congratulations. And he was like, have I won?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Like, I don't. And then he went and he sat on like this big throne thing.
Oh, that was so weird, wasn't
And he was still like, I don't think I'm champion yet. So yeah, that was 2022. He won that in Japan.
Brilliant moment.
So really, it's a very successful track for Red Bull.
Yeah.
So it will suit them.
Yeah, so Max said, if you look at Melbourne performance-wise, I think we were quick, but we didn't quite finish the race. So that's not ideal, but our car normally likes, the higher speed corners, so hopefully that, we can show that again this weekend. And I think they will, because they've brought a myriad of upgrades. And, you can take this as a reactionary event from Australia, but it's not. According to the technical team, they actually had this in the works from before the season even started, which makes me kind of worried that Red Bull is just going to run away with another Constructors' Championship. Max is going to get another Drivers' Championship. I have a feeling this isn't going to be an overly close race. But we'll see. Ferrari are kind of doing something.
It's a development race, isn't it? So
yeah. Oh, no, I mean...
let's not discount the other ones yet.
That is very true. Aston Martin have brought a massive upgrade. They're looking even more like Red Bull.
And look at McLaren last year. Sorry to cut you off. They made a huge jump. So I'm just trying to keep morale high.
Mm-hmm. The one thing that worries me is that Red Bull, the leaders, and they are pretty far ahead. Pretty much, they're doing well for themselves. They have this upgrade, which is a substantial upgrade, but they also have another rumoured upgrade coming later on in the season as well, which is again another substantial, again rumoured, but a substantial upgrade. So let me talk you through this upgrade first anyway. It all comes down to the side pods, those lovely, lovely side pods that we love talking about so much.
And Mercedes like removing.
yeah, exactly, drop dough and all that. But Red Bull they've got this amazing like shark mouth, haven't they? We all saw it, everyone was like, 0 pods! It's a trick. They're going to take them off because they look kind of stupid and they don't look like they should work. But they do work. And it's not anything to do with 0 pods. It's kind of inspired by, I suppose. But that shark mouth inlet that this RB20 has been made even smaller. And what they've done to kind of maintain the reliability and the cooling is actually put little semicircular intakes behind the halo. And this is just really interesting. It's like a modular design that, depending on, because this is going to be a bit cooler, depending on the track conditions, they can just change this car with modular pieces to reduce drag, to increase the undercut under the side pod, to change the level of cooling that's necessary for the car. I mean, it's absolute genius from Adrian Newey and his team. It really is. But one other change as well, which is why I said people might kind of think it's down to Australia, is they've actually changed the brake cooling ducts as well. But they've only made them smaller because of the track. The track has long straights. Because it's a higher average speed, like I said, you don't need massive cooling ducts because the speed and the airspeed does it for you. But it could be a very interesting race because Ferrari are like, we're close. Carlos Sainz is feeling optimistic. His hole is now less of a hole, which always helps.
What?
His surgery hole, that is.
Was like, I don't know what you're talking about.
that could
Sweat, baby. Sweat.
athlete sweat. Oh God. His surgery hole, his keyhole.
Oh, I
It's
would have
healed.
hoped it would be closed up in Australia.
It wasn't there, was it? He
but
had a thing on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully it's. I mean, it was closed. It was sewn up, but he was saying he's back, fighting fit and ready to rock and roll. And I hope we get a great battle between Ferrari and Red Bull, and maybe even Aston Martin, who have changed their side pods. Interestingly, side note, only for Lance,
Yes, not Fernando.
not Fernando. And I think this is a strange thing to do because it's been rumored that Aston Martin are going after Adrian Newey. Like, they've just thrown, apparently, reportedly, money at the Red Bull designer. And what are they saying to him that they'll do with his designs? They'll give it to Lance Stroll first over the world champion they've got sitting at the back of the garage. That's a very strange way of persuading someone like Adrian Newey to come to their garage, isn't it? I find that very odd.
Yeah, that is a bit odd. I mean, do you think it's even plausible that he's going to move, though?
Fernando. Oh, sorry, Adrian
yeah.
Newey. No, I don't think so. I think...
Although maybe he wants a new challenge. But I think he would want... Because obviously Fernando Alonso isn't confirmed for next year. Maybe he'll wait and see what his move is.
Yeah, I think he'll see out the regulations at least.
Yeah.
I can't see him moving before 2026. And even then, I think he's quite... he's the kind of guy who gets quite excited about a new challenge. And but remaining in that Red Bull family, which he's been with for however many years. So, I don't know. It's a difficult one. I mean, Mike Crack, the Aston Martin team principal, he was kind of tight-lipped about it, wasn't he? He was just like, no. Exactly. He made that noise. I don't know. We'll see. It's all rumours and speculation at the moment, but there's quite a few interesting things going on. The biggest one, though, at the moment is Sebastian Vettel, isn't it? Who would have thought we'd get potentially Sebastian Vettel returning to the fold?
Me.
Did you say it?
No, I just want to believe it.
Oh, okay. So this is the story. Vettel, he's been in talks with Toto Wolff, hasn't he? And we don't know what these talks are about, but he's getting questioned left, right, and centre about moving to Mercedes.
Yeah, so he did. So he's currently doing like a promo tour, if you want to put it that way, for a new energy drink. But obviously that means that for the first time in a long time that properly, I'd say, he is now in contact with a lot of media, whereas he's kind of laid low for a lot of his retirement. He did Goodwood last year and there was press there.
Including us.
But other than that, he's not done a huge amount during his retirement. So he did an interview with Craig Slater on Sky Sports, and he just point blank asked him, like, yeah, I know you're in contact with Toto Wolff, so are we going to see you in a Mercedes next year? And he was either teasing something or just absolutely living for the moment and thought, I'm going to get myself in the headlines.
And he did.
And he did, successfully. And he basically was just like, well, I don't have a seat for next year, so...
But you could see he had this smile.
Yeah.
He had this smile on the side of his face. As soon as Craig asked him, he was like, Like you just saw the side of his lip just lift.
Twinkle in his eye.
There was a twinkle. There was a twinkle. Yeah, I mean, he retired in 2022. He's just done that Porsche hypercar test with
Jota,
thank you. Yeah. And he could be erring towards Le Mans. WEC, we don't know. Maybe this kind of need for racing has come back because, like you said, he's doing very little. He's been working on sustainable fuels and putting beehives and insect houses in Japan. Like obviously the environment is a huge thing for him. But racing, come on, he's a 4-time world champion. Like racing is in his blood. But how diluted is it? That's the question. So I think the question is, how plausible is it that he actually might be moving to Mercedes? And the other question is, could it only be in a driver role?
You've just bombarded 2 questions on me at once, but I'll try my best.
I'm a stickler.
I started thinking like, nah, that's just not going to happen. And then I kind of sat on it and was like, well, maybe. Because Mercedes, they've put a lot of the limelight on Andrea Kimi Antonelli, who's their junior driver. He's in F2. He's just skipped F3 and gone straight into F2. So they obviously want him as their future. They don't want to make the same mistake that they did with Max Verstappen when they couldn't offer him a drive when he was trying to get into F1. And they obviously see Antonelli in a similar sort of light and see his career going in a similar sort of way. But does it make sense to bring in a rookie driver in 2025 when the regulations and cars are changing in 2026? Why not, so long as he doesn't win F2? Which it doesn't look like he's going to.
No, Kramer need to turn it around.
So keep him in F2 for another year, get more experience because he's still very young. Then bring Vettel in for his encore year.
Oh, I like that. Encore year.
Thank you. I might go into marketing. I'm not sure. So
pays better, probably.
Probably. So he could just have 1 year. You're not committed for anything more than that, but get the racing out of your system because he is only 36. But it's like that awkward kind of, there's a fine line, or I don't really know how to say it, but.
And we look at Alonso.
Yeah, like sports people often retire young, but then you've got Alonso and Hamilton who are still going strong. And maybe he's thinking like, maybe I do have a bit more in me. The only thing I will say is, obviously he's really passionate about sustainability now. He's got his Race Without a Trace campaign that he's doing for sustainable fuels. And he's got a family. Part of the reason why he retired was to spend more time with his kids and family. It's a big calendar now. It's 24 races. It's a lot of time out of your year. And it maybe conflicts with his own personal kind of passions, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah, because he said like when he retired, part of the reasoning was the fact that the season was just getting too long. My question is, within obviously Mercedes have had a lot of issues since this new era, the ground effect era. Hamilton's been disappointed, Russell's been pretty disappointed, but Toto Wolff, he's coming under pressure, isn't he? Because he's the guy in charge of it, and he's shown a level of performance that he could reach, and now he's just not getting it. And the issue is that he's now lost Lewis Hamilton, and with that, they lose sponsorship, they lose the marketing value of Lewis, of a 7-time world champion, and he's outspoken as well. Like he's a very marketable person. So Toto's coming under it. Is there a possibility that he could leave? Because Ambrosio's left as well. He was kind of the number 2 for Toto Wolff. You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
What if Sebastian Vettel comes in? He's been talking to Toto Wolff. We don't know it's to drive the car. Maybe he's coming in as a consultant, like the Niki Lauda of Mercedes. What if he comes in and takes over Toto Wolff? I'm not sure he'll actually take over Toto's job because that's a big jump. But if anyone was going to do it, Vettel would be brilliant.
I find it hard to compute that idea.
Yeah. No,
I can't see Mercedes without Toto, but then I couldn't see Haas without Gunther. And look at them now, and it's
They're
like
flower, don't they?
Yeah, and like it seems completely like how it's been forever. So, but right now I can't see Toto stepping down, but maybe it is. The idea is to be a gradual process. So to bring him in now to like grow into it a little bit and then...
What, as a driver?
No, like you were saying, like a advisor, like just below Toto. The other option is an ambassador, but I think there was rumours of Hamilton wanting that.
And being turned down.
And I think you can't turn down... Like that would be weird, I think.
And give it to Vettel, after like the 2010s. These like
in Mercedes as well.
Exactly.
Oh God.
Although that actually does make me think if Vettel does get a seat in Mercedes and Hamilton in Ferrari, the tables would have turned. I know it's very different regulations, but just those two fighting it out, but in opposite cars, that makes me really, really excited.
I think obviously that would be amazing, like 100%. But also they've grown a bit, matured a bit. They would definitely keep it clean, but that's probably a good thing. You get better. Do you not think so?
I don't know. I think when the adrenaline starts, I think Hamilton isn't afraid to push it a bit.
But they're friends now.
Yes, so were Vettel. I mean, Mick Schumacher was his godson, and they still took each other off. I would be so up for Hamilton versus Vettel once again in cars that, I mean, obviously we're going to have Red Bull probably in this top three. We don't know where it's going to be. It's going to be a clean slate, but that would be for me the perfect setup. Vettel comes into Mercedes for 2025. He has this amazing rivalry with Ferrari's Lewis Hamilton, and then that gives Antonelli, like you were saying, a bit longer to mature, to get that experience there. 2026, Antonelli comes in as the driver alongside George Russell, or maybe Vettel blows George Russell out the water. And they're like, wait a sec, why don't we just get Antonelli, replace George Russell? Then we've got like one hell of a duo. Likely won't happen because Vettel probably won't want to anyway. He's probably likely gonna... I don't think he'll have too many more years in him. So we've got George Russell, got Antonelli, we've got Vettel as some sort of advisory role. I think the stars would align for Mercedes at that point.
Maybe he could do a part-time driver role.
Just get him in the reserve.
That sorts out his kind of want and need to go racing again, but he doesn't then have the commitment of 24 races. And then Mercedes can use it as a year to test out another driver like Mick or whoever. Oh yeah,
I forgot about Mick. Would Vettel be more attracted to Mercedes because Mick's there as well? Maybe Vettel's master plan is to go in and get Mick a seat. I doubt it.
This is all getting a bit much.
This is getting crazy. But the last question as well is he's been out of a seat for a long time. Is his fitness there? Is Vettel's fitness there? So, I don't know. I think maybe he's doing the thing with Porsche. He might see how he is as a driver, and maybe he's using this to assess like where he is and if he's ready to go back. And maybe if it doesn't work for the Le Mans or WEC, like he'll go, okay, I tried, maybe not. Or maybe he's like, yeah, I can do it. I've proven it to myself now, proven it to the wife or his partner. I don't know. He's married, isn't he? I can't remember. So. Prove it to his partner, go into F1 for a bit and enjoy it and have some fun.
I think the benefit in terms of like fitness and getting ready for it is the one thing about Lewis Hamilton announcing his move so early is that it's kind of brought forward all of this silly season stuff. Like usually it's around the summer break, but its discussion started before the season even started this year. So if he can secure that now, he's got quite a long time to get himself ready for next year.
Yeah.
Oh, then I'm getting really excited. It's probably not even going to happen. But then we might see him in some free practice sessions.
Yeah.
Well, can they do that though? Does it have to be a rookie? It might have to be unless
They would
it's
give
an
it-
additional, because there's a minimum amount they have to give to rookies, isn't it?
Yeah. We'll see.
Anyway.
We'll see. It's very exciting. All he's looking for, according to the man himself, is a good package. So let's hope.
Maybe Lance Stroll will give him a call. Although he's been there, done that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think he wants to do that
I'm
again.
getting carried away.
The Aston Martin was the only car he didn't nickname. That says a lot.
Ooh.
So on that note, let us know down in the comments what you think. Is Vettel actually going to enter Formula One again? Is it a thing that we could actually realistically question? Let us know down in the comments. And as always, thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video.